Hi everyone, it's Jerry. This is Game 8 from the 2012 Fide World Chess Championship match, or what might be better recognized as the shortest game in World Chess Championship history. Viswanathan Anand has the white pieces in this game and is trailing 3 points to Boris Gelfand's 4. Let's have a look and see how things play out. Anand opening up with d4, Gelfand responding knight f6. After c4 and g6, we saw this same story going on in games 1 and 3 of this match, where in game 1, Anand replied knight c3 at this point, and in game 3, we saw f3. f3 is once again the case, only now in this game 8. In response to that, in the game 3, Gelfand played d5, but was having something much different, and that's often denoted by having a different pawn advance. In this case, we're seeing now c5 striking at this d4 point immediately and heading for a Benoni type of structure. White responding now d5, gaining some space, taking away that classical c6 square from that queen knight. Black playing d6, allowing that bishop to c, and ruling out any possibilities for a cramping d6 advance by white. Gaining some space now in the center is Anand with e4. More development on the black side, fianchettoing the bishop. And knight on g to e2, looking to eventually bring the king knight over to the c3 square, and eventually this knight would like to make use of the d2 square. This is a better, it's another option to reorganize the pieces. It could be a bit uncomfortable to get this king knight and king bishop out, seeing how this f3 pawn is in the way of the knight f3 move. So black castles, knight e to c3, and now this bishop is ready to come out. And now knight to h5, looking to open up the position potentially with f5 or even an e5 advance, throwing a big question to the white side. Do you capture right away, or do you just allow it to remain closed, and then an f5 move is coming up very soon, and we would have at that point then of a position very reminiscent to a King's Indian, but it's not so easy for white to make progress on the queen side, and that's what typically would happen if we're working with the King's Indian. Black will be looking to play on the king side, and white will be looking to play on the queen side, but with this pawn on c5, it's very difficult to break at. It's very difficult to get play or generate play on the queen side. So following up, we have bishop g5, anticipating this e5 advance, placing this pawn in a pin. There will be no e5. Instead, bishop f6 to neutralize this bishop's influence on the position. And after the bishops come off, we have this pawn recapturing, doubled pawns, but it's only temporary. Soon enough, we'll see f5 striking at this e4 pawn. Queen to d2 observes these dark squares. h6, primarily the f4 move, rules out any knight f4 moves right away. And now we're having f5. What's one thing that's worthwhile to note is if g4 is played and knight to f4, it seems very cozy right here, but after queen d2, the knight is clearly running short on squares, and so a move like g5 now becomes a necessity. But keep in mind that this is not the advance black wants to get in. It's the f5 advance, but that's completely ruled out, and because f5 cannot be played, this bishop is essentially biting on a rock. So this is not the direction black wants to go in. Yes, it has a nicely placed knight on f4, but beyond that, it's not good. In fact, you can view it as this g5 pawn is just acting as a hook for an eventual h4 move, and with the exchange of those pawns, the h file is going to open up, and shortly thereafter, we'll have a case of opposite sides castling and this black king being in serious trouble. So, in other words, not the way to go. Should the move g4 be played, the knight would not do well to play to f4, but rather basically fianchetto itself and then look for an f5 advance. This is the main idea. Try and get in f5. So we don't have g4. Instead, it's just queen to d2. And now with f5 striking at e4, we have the exchange going on. Bishop recaptures, and now g4 coming with the fork, which is, you could get out of that. Black goes about it by first giving a check, and we don't have a block. We just have Anand now running over to the queen side, and black now avoiding the loss of material with just pawn takes either one of those minor pieces, first grabbing that knight on b1, and Anand recaptures. Now this right here, this check by the rook, is maybe just a a misstep right here, because there is the possibility for first queen check on h4, and then after the king moves, bishop takes, rook takes, and now react with, let's say, a knight g7 move. And this queen is very well placed to prevent any h4, h5 stuff and the opening up of the h-file. So that was definitely a possibility for black at this point right here. But instead, what we do have is the immediate rook check in response to g4, king to d1, bishop takes knight, rook takes bishop, and now a miscalculation by black. Queen to f6 simply did not see far enough. It is threatening queen takes pawn with the fork right here, but white allows it. Pawn takes knight, queen takes pawn, we have a fork. After king c2, queen takes rook, black is up material, but after the key move, queen to f2, black resigns in just 17 moves. The queen is very close to just being dead. After a bishop move, she's clearly running out of squares. We have e4, f3, all of these squares that I'm highlighting right here are all covered, and as soon as this bishop moves, all of these squares are going to be covered and the queen is dead. If there's any type of resistance in this position, it's to sacrifice this knight on b8. There is the possibility for knight c6, and if you move the bishop right away, well, there's going to be a knight check followed by, let's say, queen to f3, and the queen is rescued. But what would occur if knight c3 were even played, it basically just came down to after queen c2, or excuse me, queen f2, black ends up resigning right here. And it's basically a position to resign no matter what, because after pawn takes knight, there's queen takes pawn, and this knight right here, just let's just say a rook move to the e5 square. A knight right here is well worth a rook. It's invaluable. A knight generally worth 3 points right here, but by not being able to be dislodged from d5, again, it's invaluable. Very, very powerful piece on that hole in the black position on d5. This is a hopeless position regardless of knight c6 being played at this moment right here. But as it stands in this game, after just 17 moves, Gelfand is forced into resignation, and this match at this point right here is now locked at 4 points each, and we will see what happens in game 9. So that's all for this video. As always, I hope you got something out of it. Take care. Bye.